Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back hopefully for a news video that will work properly tonight. But we'll see how it goes. More news and politics, this time for Monday, the 27th day of January 2025. Let's go ahead and hop into this because we got a lot to cover. I cannot even talk. From ProPublica, dozens of people died in an Arizona sober living homes as state officials fumbled Medicaid fraud response. Anders Justito sits at his house in Zuni Pueblo, New Mexico. His son, 43-year-old Jeffrey Justito, died at a sober living home in Glendale, Arizona in 2022. So yeah. Highlights. Unrecognized deaths. At least 40 native residents of Phoenix area sober living homes and treatment facilities died between spring of 2022 and summer of 2024 amid the Medicaid fraud crisis. Unheeded warnings. Republican and Democratic administrations failed to act on evidence the fraud was imperiling Native Americans whose care was paid for by the state's Medicaid agency. Seeking answers. Some of the victims' families said authorities have yet to inform them of how the fraud schemes ensnared their loved ones and contributed to their deaths. So yeah, people suffering, but of course, no answers given. Also from ProPublica, they followed North Carolina's election rules when they cast their ballots. Now their votes could be tossed anyway. A Republican judge is trying to overturn his election loss by challenging more than 60,000 ballots. These are some of those voters' stories. This Republican judge has spent more than 2 months trying to overturn his narrow defeat for a North Carolina Supreme Court seat by arguing that around 60,000 ballots should be tossed out. But many residents have only recently learned that their votes are in danger of not being counted and say they have done nothing wrong. Yeah, we talked about this guy before in a different article, in a different episode. Yeah. And he is really clearly flipping a lot of what should be common sense. ProPublica has heard from dozens of voters who expressed astonishment and anger at state appeals court judge Jefferson Griffin's ongoing attempts to cancel their ballots. The claim at the heart of Griffin's challenge: no ballot should be counted for a voter whose registration is missing a driver's license number or the last 4 digits of their social security number. So, bullshit. Bullshit. He's a whiny Trump clone. Okay. Republican. It's good to know. From Ken Klippenstein, Big Brother becomes Little Brother. Corporations are the new nation state, the U.S. intelligence admits. Envious of the power and wealth of corporate America, the head of U.S. intelligence has issued a new directive calling on spy agencies to routinize and expand their partnerships with private companies. Agencies are even authorized to incur risk in these relationships, the directive says. The move underscores the awesome power of corporations, the apostocracy, as I call them, or non-state entities, the directive's euphemistic term. Called Intelligence Community Directive 406, the order was signed on January 16th by then President Biden's Director of National Intelligence in the final days of the administration. It lays out new ways for spy agencies to capitalize on the information and expertise of these corporate superpowers, which could be anything from social media platforms to AI firms. It is not yet clear how the Trump administration plans to exercise these authorities. You know, you should not be working with these giant monsters. Government's job should be hacking them down so they're not these giants that nobody can overcome. No, they need to have severe smackdowns laid on them. Let's go on to the next article here. From inequality.org. AI means oh no for low-income Americans. Artificial intelligence is already exacerbating harms against low-income people. We need to fight back together. The billions of dollars poured into AI haven't delivered on the technology's promised solutions, such as better medical treatment, advances in scientific research, or increased worker productivity. So the AI hype train pervades the underwhelming. Slightly smarter phones, text-prompted graphics, and quicker report writing, if the AI hasn't made things up. Meanwhile, there's a dark underside to the technology that goes unmentioned by AI's carnival barkers. The widespread harm that AI presently causes low-income people. AI and related technologies are used by governments, employers, landlords, banks, educators, and law enforcement to wrongly cut in-home caregiving services for disabled people, accuse unemployed workers of fraud, deny people housing, employment, credit, take kids from loving parents and put them in foster care, intensify domestic violence and sexual abuse or harassment, label and mistreat middle and high school kids as likely dropouts or criminals, and falsely accuse black and brown people of crimes. All told, 92 million low-income people in the United States, those with incomes less than 200% of the poverty line, have some key aspect of life decided by AI, according to a new report by Tectonic Justice. This shift towards AI decision-making carries risks not present in the human-centered methods that precede them and defies all existing accountability mechanisms. First, AI expands the scale of risk far beyond the individual decision makers. Sure, humans can make mistakes or be biased, but their reach is limited to the people they directly make decisions about. In cases of landlords, direct supervisors, or government caseworkers, that might top out at a few hundred people. But with AI, the risk of misapplied policies, Coding errors, bias, or cruelty are centralized through the system and applied to masses of people ranging from several thousand to millions at a time. So yeah, it's not just that, oh, they can make the wrong decisions on people. They make it much, much, much faster. And so you can have that many more mistakes that much faster. It is not a guaranteed great fixing everything technology. You're an idiot if you believe this. They have no answers, but it's a question I thought was interesting. From the Ask Historians Reddit. Did Africans know how bad life as a slave in America would be? If I was a regular African dude in the area slaves were taken from, what would I realistically know about America and life over there? And if anything, how would word of the horror get back to Africa? They don't care. They see you as a way to fight what they view as their enemies, other certain tribes in Africa. It wasn't viewed as, oh, they're going to take all us Africans. No. The partisanship that tends to creep in to the human condition is a big reason that slavery was so simple. Oh, we'll capture them and give them to you because we don't like these people. That wasn't the sole thing, but it's one of them. You got to remember. Even though they were all fellow Africans, they did not see them as friends or allies necessarily, because it's like, these are not people I like. I do not want to be around. Yeah. Another question from Ask Historians. Did Germans think that Hitler was stupid? I know a lot of people think that Donald Trump is stupid. It's certainly a popular opinion on Reddit. Also, a lot of people think that Donald Trump is going to try to take over in a way that is similar to what Hitler did. Did German people before, or maybe secretly after, Hitler took power think he was stupid? And we have a first response by a moderator, top quality contributor. It's not normally our policy to set out exactly what comments get deleted, but every so often when a much upvoted thread turns into a comments graveyard, I can help to give some idea of what you aren't missing. I'm posting this when the thread has accumulated 87 user comments, and a rough breakdown shows these comprise 7819 hot takes, 1819 hot takes, 18 soapboxing comments about Donald Trump, 11 why can't I see any comments? I'm seeing if adding a comment will let me see other comments and test. 10 two-line hot takes, 7 right-wing Redditors attacking the presumptiveness of left-wing Redditors, 5 the short answer is, 4 speculative and unsourced comments, 3 I read somewhere that, 3 I'm not a historian, but 3 snapshots of comments from other subs, 3 actual attempts at an answer that unfortunately fall below the Ask Historians quality threshold, 1 video recommendation, and 1 comment about history's views on pornography. Now, the next response is from a guy who is who deals with law and public welfare. So you're looking for parallels, and there are a lot. The Social Democratic Party, Sozialdemokratische Partei Deutschlands, or SPD, immediately considered Hitler one of the most dangerous agitators in Munich even before he reached nationwide fame. And their Munich Post reported on and ridiculed him from 1920 onwards. The Communist Party, Kommunistische Partei Deutschlands, KPD, also considered Hitler a threat, though not enough so to reconcile with the SPD. In response to the Munich Post's coverage, he founded the Völkischer Beobachter newspaper and took over the publisher by 1921, giving him his own media mouthpiece. He referred to the Munich Post as Giftkuche, the poison kitchen, or Münchener Pest, the Munich pestilence or Munich plague, just as he referred to Jews as the eternal poisoners of the world. Hitler, Goering, and Goebbels also referred to any outlet that presented negative coverage about the NSDAP as Lügenpresse, lying press, especially when it is true and or damaging. So, for example, Nazi papers spread the stab in the back myth and lied through their teeth about it, and any outlet that dared contradict them was called Lügenpresse. The Munich Post's coverage was so damaging to Hitler that during the Beer Hall Putsch, the brown shirts deterred the to trash their offices. When the Munich Post got a hold of the internal NSDAP complaint asking where Hitler was getting his money since he had no job, they published it immediately, leading to a libel lawsuit that Hitler won in an increasingly partisan Bavarian courts, even though the questions were valid because Hitler was forced to admit he was receiving support from the NSDAP members and lying about it. The Post was openly partisan and combined highly accurate reporting, such as the outing SA leader Ernst Röhm as being gay, while the NSDAP was very virulently anti-gay, and rumors and mockery, including insulting Hitler's intelligence. You can read more about the Munich Post in English in Enemy of the People, the Munich Post, and the Journalist Who Opposed Hitler by Terence Petty, which was published by the Associated Press. So yeah. The Munich Post, they're saying, yeah, it was partisan, but that's because it used actual hardcore facts, did not try to both sides things. I'm assuming that's like a Nazi paper or Nazi group that was within the NSDAP, because the NSDAP was highly anti-gay, even though the leader of the SA, Ernst Röhm, was gay. But yeah, they're showing here how they attacked Hitler's intelligence. The comparisons to modern day US is interesting because you notice the right wingers and Trumpists always shout fake news, fake news, fake news, because they don't like actual information that comes out about them. And much like Trump, who loves to go sue, they sued the Munich Post. Hitler did, in which Hitler won. You could see the courts getting Germany itself getting very partisan. So, like we see in modern day America, the split between Trumpist Republican butt kissers and those who are extremely opposed. But what did they say about Hitler's intelligence? And a lot of the rest of the other comments have been deleted because, like the guy pointed out in the first comments, it's a lot of BS that's pointed out. But yeah, I think this guy does a pretty good job in underscoring everything, bringing all the information out. And we got another one from Ask Historians. I told you we have a lot to go over. Would an early to mid Iron Age Israelite be able to conceive of atheism? How would they view it and modern atheist Jews? Many modern Jews are atheists, and religious Jews generally are fine with this. They usually don't even consider atheists to be non-Jews. How would a Hebrew from early or mid-Iron Age react to the modern atheistic Jew if the atheist time traveled? What would the atheist Jew be considered? Would the atheist Jew be considered equal to the worshiper of false gods by the ancient Hebrew Israelite? I should note I'm not Jewish and I didn't grow up in an area with significant Jewish population. So I missed an important detail. That's likely why. Yeah, there weren't a lot of Jewish people around where I live, but again, it's not Jewish people I have a problem with, it's Israel and their treatment of other. We've got a first answer. In order to fully answer your question, we need to rely not only on historical information, but rather on understanding of Jewish culture and religion. To begin, Judaism is a matrilinear religion which relies on matrilineality, your mother being Jewish and her mother in turn, etc. Historians often debate at what point Judaism actually became matrilinear instead of patrilinear. But it's definitely before the Talmud came into writing, 70 Common Era, as it references Deuteronomy 7, 3, and 4 as the source of this tradition. He, the gentle father, will turn away your son, i.e., the child born to your Jewish daughter, from following me. The Gentile father, sorry. Another important note is that according to modern Judaism, once you're either born Jewish or convert to Judaism, you're permanently Jewish. if you're Jewish and convert to Christianity, you're still considered Jewish according to the religion. Judaism also incorporates the concept of questioning quite deeply in the religion itself, which makes criticism of the religion acceptable to some degree. Another important Jewish concept is the preservation of life, pikuach nefesh, which makes such things as martyrdom in Judaism completely forbidden. The word commonly used for cemetery in Judaism translates literally to house of life, Beit HaChaim. The thing is, being Jewish is its own cultural group as well as religious group. And Judaism puts great emphasis on personal morality and following Jewish practices over genuine belief, to the point that according to a 2013 survey, 55% of American Jews believe Judaism is a matter of ancestry and culture. Add on to that fact that a lot of Jews were heavily oppressed in Eastern and Central Europe, thus making a lot of Jews in the late 1800s and early 1900s heavily left-leaning, especially those who came from Russia. So how would an Iron Age Israelite see a modern Jew? Well, to begin, there's an obstacle in Hebrew itself. The modern Hebrew alphabet came into being at around the 3rd century before the Common Era, being slowly refined into the modern Hebrew shapes until the 1st century. Paleo Hebrew was common for an ancient Israelites in the 10th through 5th century BCE before the Common Era, being slowly replaced with Aramaic and then modern Hebrew. What else? Well, the loss of Solomon's temple and the lack of animal sacrifices, korbanot, or korbanot, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, would certainly shock them. Animal sacrifices were used for multiple reasons in this period, such as winning favor or securing pardon. It would be seen as a massive blow and a complete surprise as to why or how can a Jew worship God without some kind of intermediary, such as a priest or central temple. Another huge surprise would probably be the rabbinical Judaism, as in the Iron Age. Judaism was far more closely linked to Israel itself and the Torah rather than anything else, also known as the Old Testament. It would resemble in part Samaritanism, which rejects almost anything other than the Torah itself. Honestly, I believe an ancient Israelite would be far more connected to a religious Israel than any other secular Jew. Jewish religion is that at that period was heavily intertwined with the Great Temple in Jerusalem and religious military victories over the nearby tribes living in the region. I think if they focused on belief in God, then maybe they would find some links with diaspora Jews, although it would be unlikely, as Torah commandments and sacrifices were followed to the letter back then. They would probably see Israeli Jews as much more similar to themselves and their struggles. And they give some notes on where they get the information. A portrait of Jewish Americans from the Pew Research Center, and On Sacrifice by Alberto Moshe, Princeton University Press. So, yeah, and then you've got some other responses, but we'll go ahead and end that one there. Let's go on now to look at a thing from Ask Science. If a building survives a big earthquake, will it survive it again? I moved to a private house around 4 years ago, but before that I used to live in a 15-story apartment on the top floor. We had a 6.4 earthquake, which is huge for my country, and we were told that the building sustained no damage from the earthquake. Does this mean the building will be fine if there is another bigger earthquake, since it sustained no damage from a 6.4? We get the first response. Hi there, structural specialized engineer here. I do work in seismic country. The answer is maybe, with a strong dose of probably. For seismic design, 3 things are key. First, there's what we call load path. Basically, is everything connected? Most seismic failures in the U.S. are due to connection failures. Are the diaphragms attached to the walls? Or did it just get lucky in the last quake? Second, there's ductility, or the ability to fail in a non-catastrophic fashion via stretching instead of cracking or crushing. Steel is great at it. Wood's even better. Concrete and masonry are garbage unless detailed properly. Third, there's energy absorption, which is related to but different than ductility. There are 2 functions here. The first is how much energy is converted from kinetic, physical movement energy to thermal energy, and second is how much attention of the movement is, or how much attenuation of the movement is there. That's based purely on the structure type. Converted energy is materials bending and heating up. Attenuation is things like dampeners and systems that allow more deflection, like movement frames instead of shear walls, or moment frames instead of shear walls. Ductility is key to this question. Think in terms of a paper clip. You bend it slightly, it springs back to the original shape, elastic deformation. That's the idea, because it means the material hasn't failed. If everything in the structure has returned to the original stresses, it can survive at least the same forces. But if it's been pushed past that into plastic deformation, that means additional forces would compromise critical parts of the load path. An example of this is the CTV building in New Zealand. That said, if an engineer looked at it already and determined there was no damage, it should be fine. But yeah, they've got a few more answers and stuff to it and responses. Then we have one here, a response by tectonic structural geology and geomorphology. Someone's involved in, so yeah, they give a response. We got a response by somebody involved in seismic hazards, earthquake predictability, computer science. So yeah, pretty interesting bit. I'll let you read the rest of it if you want to. But now let's look at some data. Data is beautiful. Which countries export the most coffee to the U.S.? It shows the year, and pay attention to Brazil and Colombia, because these 2 remain solidly at the top. 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and back to the beginning. But yeah, Brazil is at the top for a while. Colombia takes over. Brazil gains the lead back, and then Switzerland comes rocketing up. So, and it's important because Colombia, Trump was just beefing with, because Trump, of course, is a moron, possibly making our coffee more expensive. Thank you. So, as always, for the higher costs, let's say it. Thank you, Donald. Now let's look at some images from history porn. This today was a big day. It is the fall of Auschwitz in Germany during World War II. There were a lot of articles related to it when I was looking up stuff that we can look at together. But yeah. The image reads, 80 years ago today, on January the 27th, 1945, Auschwitz is liberated. In this photo, a Dr. Sinner, right here, this dude, with the 322nd Rifle Division of the Red Army, the Soviets, walks a group of survivors at the entrance of the walks with a group of survivors at the entrance to the newly liberated Auschwitz I concentration camp in January of 1945. There's a better look at the image. So the day the liberation of Auschwitz happened. Next image we're looking at, Soviet soldiers chatting with children just liberated from Auschwitz. January 1945. Like I said, there was a lot of things dealing with Auschwitz. There was a lot of it I bypassed. I just got some of the other stuff I thought was more interesting. But yeah, you have these Soviet soldiers here. They're like just chatting with these kids. They're everyday kids. You know, teens. And it's like they were held in the captivity of the camps. For no other reason than Hitler wanted to portray all the troubles upon them, much the way Trump tries to do with certain immigrants of brown or black color. British and Nazi flags hang over coffins of British children abandoned to die in the German Black Forest mountain by their teacher, which was covered up by both governments in 1936. So this is before World War II even happens. But yeah, this horrible incident happens where a teacher brings some of his students to the Black Forest mountain in Germany and abandons them there to die. And both governments cover it up. 1936. There's a better look at the picture. It's in Germany. That's where the Black Forest is. So you've got the Nazi flags on both sides, but at the top you've got Nazi and Britain, because it was British students. U.S. women working hand on hand for the construction of aircraft for the war effort circa 1942. This is where you get much of the propaganda of Rosie the Riveter. She's doing the job so our boys can keep fighting, that kind of thing. And yeah, here's an example of it. They're sitting there, well, not sitting there, they're standing there together putting this aircraft together. So the war effort can continue. And I want you to notice this. White woman, woman of color, there's no problems. It's like we're working together to fix an issue. Racial stupidity is just that. Racial stupidity. Race means nothing in the long run. Period. This woman's just as human as this woman. This woman's just as American as this woman. They're working to try to help end the evils of the fascist regimes. Because remember, both Hitler and Mussolini were still in power at this point. And of course, the emperor was still in power in Japan. So yeah, America was first in there. They didn't enter the war. When was Pearl Harbor? December of 41 or 42? I would say December of 41. Because this picture's from 42. So, yeah. December the 7th, 1941. A date which shall live in infamy. Part of the speech from Franklin D. Roosevelt announcing America's entry into the war after Japan had bombed Pearl Harbor. But yeah, 1941, so now our soldiers were being moved into Europe and Asia and the islands. So we had war in Europe, but we also had war in the Pacific because we were fighting Japan. But yeah, women stepped up and did what they needed to do. Now, this is from the NASA subreddit. I just thought it was a interesting image. NASA's quiet supersonic X-59 jet performs afterburner engine test at the Skunk Works facility in Palmdale, California. Images by Lockheed Martin, which is one of the large manufacturers of weapons and aeronautical planes and other things dealing with aeronautics. And also from the NASA subreddit, we have an image here. Nebula in this large Magellanic cloud as seen by the Hubble Space Telescope. A nebula in the large Magellanic cloud. Yeah. So we get a nice look out into space. Remember, the Hubble Space Telescope is slowly being phased out in favor of the James Webb Space Telescope. So these are some of the last shots. It'll still be used, but it's no longer going to be the prime source we look into space with. Now, from NHPOPR.org. Let's look at this here. Keene man arrested for storming the Capitol on January 6th rejects Trump's pardon. So we already talked in another episode about the woman who's rejected Trump's pardon. She's like, look, what I did was wrong. It shouldn't have been done. Now we got another guy. He's like, yeah, well, I'm rejecting his pardon. On his first day in office this week, Donald Trump pardoned all the rioters at the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. Jason Riddle served time in jail for his participation in the 2021 riot, where he stole a bottle of wine and a book on Senate procedure. He told NHPR's Morning Edition host Rick Ganley that he's rejecting Trump's pardon. First, I want to ask you, how did you find out you were pardoned? I was at the gym. My husband and I were both working out. And I saw it on one of the TVs, and I looked over at him and was like, it looks like I'm pardoned today. So take us back. Why did you go to the Capitol on January 6th? By January 6th, it had become sort of a routine in my life. I drove to Maine. I drove to New York for Trump rallies. I was heading to January 6th. It was a Trump rally. I thought I was going to see the president one last time before he leaves office. I didn't really believe the big lie, but I more than likely perpetuated it on social media and still went down there thinking it was a good idea to do so. The rally was being billed as the Stop the Steal rally. What was it about? What was it about Donald Trump that really appealed to you? I'm a recovering alcoholic. At the time, I was not recovering. I would combine alcohol and my politics, and I'd put it online too. I spent a lot of time on social media in the comments section arguing with strangers about nothing, and it just became more or less my identity. The less I had in life, the louder I was about being a Trump supporter. And instead of trying to figure out what was causing these problems, looking at myself, I blamed other people and politics. That's easy to do, and I fit right into the MAGA circle. So you're at Trump's so-called Stop the Steal rally. What was going through your head when you ended up entering the Capitol building? The overall feeling, blah, blah, blah. At what point did you... Okay, so he's not accepting Trump's pardon because he does not support Trump anymore. It was, to him, part of the issue with his alcoholism. Now, from Spectrum News 13, Florida, Orlando. Orange County Democratic Party treasurer arrested on child porn charges. Dude, you can't do that kind of thing. It's just... I don't care what party you're in. You don't have images or videos of actual children. But he could face 20 years in jail. He has been alleged to meet with a fictional 9-year-old boy. Inman was a member of the Orange County Democratic Party and the Rainbow Democrats. Both groups have stated how shocked they are of the news. Fictional 9-year-old boy. So it was like a sting setup. I'm guessing. In a press release dated Friday, January 17th, the U.S. Attorney's Office, based in the Middle District of Florida, stated that Inman, 39, was arrested in charges of transportation of child sex abuse material. So clearly he had the actual material where it was alleged that he had videos of children being sexually abused on his smartphone, and that he expressed interest in being with a fictional 9-year-old boy. So yeah, it's more likely it was some kind of sting. And yeah. Yeah, lock them up. You can't be doing that to people. To kids. It's like, come on, dude. Seriously. Seriously. From the AP, CDC, Centers for Disease Control, have been ordered to stop working with the World Health Organization immediately, upending expectations of an extended withdrawal. So yeah, Trump issued the executive order to withdraw the U.S. from the World Health Organization, and now he's telling the CDC, you need to stop working with them. And because the CDC expected it to take a while, and Trump's like, no, yeah. I'm telling you, he's going to put us in such economic woes. We're going to end up being a pariah to other nations. He's going to be one of the worst things that have ever happened to the U.S. From The Guardian, women jailed for helping Chinese women travel to give birth in the U.S. A California woman gets 41 months as birthright citizenship is thrust into the spotlight with Trump's return to the White House. It's a constitutional right. If you are in the U.S., and your child is born in the U.S., they are a U.S. citizen. Now, what she was doing wasn't necessarily the best thing to do. A California woman was sentenced on Monday to more than 3 years in prison in a long-running case over a business that helped pregnant Chinese women travel to the U.S. to deliver babies who automatically became American citizens. Republican Gary Klausner, a U.S. district judge, gave Phoebe Dong a 41-month sentence. Dong and her husband were convicted in September of conspiracy and money laundering through their company, USA Happy Baby. So essentially, Chinese women looking to have a better life for their child, to give them more opportunity, because some are like, I don't want to have them raised up in China. And so there's still hope for them. They're like, it might be better if I get them to the U.S. And yeah. Money laundering, conspiracy, human trafficking if you're getting people in the U.S., depending on how they got them here. If they traveled here legally and then visited, saying, I'm going to have my child here, okay. But the other stuff is like, During the sentencing hearing in federal court in Los Angeles, Dong wiped away tears as she recalled growing up without siblings due to China's strict one-child policy. She told the federal court in Los Angeles that the Chinese government forced her mother to have an abortion. Yeah. At one point, the population was growing at such a rate. It was in such an explosion of births that Mao was like, we've got to shut it down. I mean, I don't want to say, no, you can't have babies, but all we can really afford is families to have one child. federal prosecutors, that um, law itself has been slowly repealed. Anyway, federal prosecutors argued that Dong and her now separated husband Michael Liu helped more than 100 pregnant Chinese women travel to the U.S. Authorities said the pair coached women on how to trick customs officials by flying into airports believed to be more lax while wearing loose-fitting clothing to hide their pregnancies. Okay, that's where the conspiracy comes from. But yeah, the one-child policy has become more relaxed. I don't know if they fully removed it in China, but I think it's relaxed pretty heavily. Let's see. Next articles from CIDRAP, University of Minnesota. The Kansas tuberculosis outbreak is now the largest in the U.S. Yeah, yesterday I talked about this. I mentioned it. And here's just, it's another article talking about it because it is something I think needs some serious attention paid to it. As Trump is forcing a lot of groups like the National Institutes of Health in the U.S. to not announce issues like this, we have the largest U.S. outbreak of tuberculosis. This is Trump world. Again, let's say it. Thank you, Trump. Thank you, Donald. Yeah. Every time he does something stupid like that, that's more or less where I'm going. Thank you, Donald. From Morning Star. Arabica coffee prices hit new high in U.S. or on the U.S. Colombia tariff spat. Again, something I mentioned at the beginning of the video when we saw the data is beautiful. It wasn't at the very beginning, but anyway. I also mentioned yesterday they tried to put the tariffs on Colombia because Colombia wouldn't allow flights that had illegal immigrants on it to land, and it's like, no. And Trump's like, well, I may put tariffs, and Colombia's like, we may put tariffs on you. And was getting ready to put us in a trade war. I think there was an agreement eventually, and Colombia is sending a plane to get. It's like, but yeah, you don't need to send a plane. From Al Jazeera, North Koreans are disciplined, armed with high-quality ammo, says Ukraine. Ukraine's new enemies are learning on the battlefield but have fatal orders to follow to avoid capture, says Kiev. So yeah. From the AP, Palestinians celebrate their return to northern Gaza after 15 months. It's not war, after 15 months of genocide. Imagine when an occupying force pushes down upon you 15 months of genocide, over a year of just slaughtering and murdering women, children, elderly, the impaired. The government of Israel doesn't care because they're Nazis. And you're just now returning to a home that's completely devastated. From the Independent, Trump mocked for hitting the golf course just a week after being sworn in again. The president was pictured playing golf at Trump National Doral in Miami on Monday morning. Yeah, Lazy Bones Trump already golfing after 1 week. From The Advocate, Michigan adds sexual orientation and gender identity to hate crime law despite far-right fiction. House Bills 5400 and 5401 amended the definition and sentencing guidelines of the state's 1988 ethnic intimidation statute for the first time in over 36 years. I hate when these little things pop up like that. Michigan's hate crime law has been updated to include sexual orientation and gender identity after Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer signed several bills into law last week. House Bills 5400 and 5401 amend the definition and sentencing guidelines of the state's 1988 ethnic intimidation statute to include sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, disability, and age, designating them as protected groups against hate crimes if they are found to be a motivating factor for violent behavior. Good on you. State Attorney General Dana Nessel, who is an out lesbian, said in a statement that it's incumbent upon those of us with the authority to unilaterally denounce such sentiments. Otherwise, there's no stopping this behavior. Exactly. Or if push comes to shove, you punch a Nazi square in the nose. I'm not advocating violence, but Nazis aren't people. From In These Times, Trump is already planning colossal tax giveaways to corporations and billionaires. President Trump campaigned on lower prices for Americans. Instead, his first priority is to cut taxes for the super rich while slashing social programs for working people. I kept telling people this, but it's like, no. And now he's doing all these things. It's like, I told y'all. But did you listen? No. Thank you, Donald. From The Guardian, energized neo-Nazis feel their moment has come as Trump changes everything. Far-right chat rooms are abuzz as extremists plan to use the next 4 years as breathing room and look to expand. And this is exactly why groups like Antifa exist. Because they are anti-fascist. But you notice that the government likes to blame Antifa for this and that. But Nazis? Oh, they aren't Nazis. I don't know what you're talking about. No, Nazis need to be knocked straight in the face with a baseball bat. Again, not advocating violence. But, again, Nazis aren't people. From Law and Crime. Pregnant women sue President Trump for unilaterally and unconstitutionally seeking to strip children of citizenship. Again, this applies to the fact that he tried to overturn the 14th Amendment with a stupid executive order. Because, again, he's what? He's a moron. Pregnant women across the country have been joining forces to file lawsuits against the federal government over the constitutionality of President Donald Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship in the U.S., according to court records. Attorneys in Maryland, Massachusetts, and Washington state have filed lawsuits on behalf of expecting parents in response to Trump's order last week, which has been blasted as blatantly unconstitutional by federal judges as it runs into legal trouble. As it should. But knowing how the Supreme Court is, it's not even a real court, it's a clown car, has been bought, and as partisan as a piece of garbage it is, it may still uphold his executive order, and that's what I am scared of. Stupid partisanship taking over any actual decency in the nation. From the AP, Trump Justice Department says it has fired employees involved in prosecutions of the president. The Justice Department said Monday it had fired more than a dozen employees who worked on the criminal prosecutions of President Donald Trump, moving rapidly to pursue retribution against lawyers involved in the investigations and signaling an early willingness to take action favorable to the president's personal interest. See, this is when crap becomes stupid. When it's partisan, personal weaponry. Instead of doing what's right. But again, morons voted for him. Please screw us over, Donnie. That's literally how they were. I told you. I told you. But no. The stupid will always be stupid because they don't want to listen to facts. They don't understand things until it happens and slaps them in the face. The abrupt termination targeting career prosecutors who worked on special counsel Jack Smith's team is the latest sign of upheaval inside the Justice Department and is consistent with the administration's determination to purge the government of workers it perceives as disloyal to the president. You're not supposed to have loyalty in the government! It's not it's not supposed to be a stupid cult! Not your business! This is the government, where you're supposed to do things that are the best for the people! But again, Donald Trump, being the dumbass he is, thank you, Donnie. Or should I do it in the way you understand? Thank you, Donnie. From The Guardian, dangerous temperatures could kill 50% more Europeans by 2100, study finds. Net increase of 80,000 deaths a year projected in the hottest scenario, and the milder winters failing to redress balance. Yeah. This is just talking about Europe. I mean, these LA wildfires, guess what one of the main drivers are? Say it with me! Climate change. From The Guardian, both men and women prefer younger partners, study finds. Even though women tend to say they prefer older men, they scored younger men as more desirable, research shows. So yeah, turns out men and women both kind of like those that are in the 18, 19, early 20s range as far as looks go. So, yeah. Even though women tend to say they prefer older men because older men are more content with who they are, more comfortable with themselves. A lot of them are financially secure or at least financially stable. But as far as visually desirable, yeah, younger men. But yeah. Anyway, from Financial Review, will AI make you dumber? Here's a line from business executives that you may have heard before. Artificial intelligence will liberate us from routine and repetitive tasks and show us how to focus on higher value work. But what if AI actually turns us into brain dead robot workers instead? It is a question that some HR bosses are pondering, albeit in far less dramatic terms, and also one that was explored in a paper published in the peer-reviewed journal Societies this month. So yeah, just an interesting little topic there. Oh. I guess allow from AALTO.fi. It's just an A with a question mark. It may be AALTO.fi. Anyway, why are 80% of the companies failing to benefit from AI? It's about the people, not the tech, says a new study. Successful uptake of new technology is a matter of emotions, and with the vast majority of companies saying they're failing to capitalize on this potential, managers need to know how to deal with them, say researchers from Aalto University. So, .5, that's probably what, Finland? I'm assuming. Of course, I may very well be wrong, but yeah. I believe that's dealing with Finland. Although I think they're talking about AI in general. Now we have a couple of images here. This one is images of the Spider and Fly Nebula from Backyard Telescope. It's a beautiful image. What is this, the spider and this the fly? I mean, often a lot of the names come from what they kind of resemble, so I could believe it. And an image of the Cygnus region captured with a phone lens. It is a Redmi Note 7 25mm 1x wide lens, f/1.8, ISO 3200, 16-second times 250 lights, untracked, plus darks. Bortle 3. Total integration time 1 hour 16 minutes. Equipment simple tripod with a phone adapter. Stacking process 250 lights and plus darks. Sequator and 5 panels times 50 lights, and Astro Pixel processor, processed in Grokspert, Cyril, and Photoshop. But good look at the image. It's pretty good. Now, let's go on to the next article from LBC. Bum, bum, bum. I can't help it. I watch James O'Brien quite a bit, so yeah. LBC. Dun, dun, dun. A huge blow. At least 8 hostages tipped for release in the ceasefire deal are dead, Hamas tells Israel. It's because Israel, without mercy, continuously bombed the areas of Gaza that actually did hold some of the hostages. Israel didn't care. For them, it wasn't about freeing hostages. I'm sure many of the people wanted the hostages free, but Netanyahu and members of his government were like, we don't care about the hostages. They weren't going to say that publicly, but that's just the fact. They didn't care. From the BBC, Glasgow child sex abuse gang given life sentences. So, child abuse gang in Glasgow, Scotland. The people who were found guilty, and they list who they were. 7 members of one of Scotland's biggest child sex abuse rings have been given lifelong sentences and warned they may never be released. 3 victims under the age of 13 were subjected to horrific sexual abuse and violence in a Glasgow drug den dubbed the Beastie House over a 7-year period. Again, you don't do this to kids. I don't care who you are. From CTV News in Canada, 80 years later, Auschwitz survivors fear rising hate could bring another Holocaust. As she prepared to return to Auschwitz-Birkenau, Miriam Ziegler vividly recalled how it felt to be a little girl orphaned by the Nazis and left alone in the world ruined by war. 80 years after the liberation of the Nazi concentration camp, the 89-year-old Ziegler said Monday the rising tide of hatred around the world makes her fear that history might be ready to repeat itself. I'm afraid that it can happen again. For my children, for my grandchildren, she said. I was lucky enough to survive. Ziegler and fellow Canadian Auschwitz survivor Howard Chandler, 96, met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Krakow, Poland on Monday. They and Trudeau were in the country for events marking the anniversary of Auschwitz liberation. Ziegler was placed in an orphanage after the camp was freed and eventually moved to Canada. Regular people, I have no qualms with. Jewish people should not be attacked. But the government of Israel is guilty of so much. Yet, here we are feeding them all the bombs and supplies they would ever want and need to commit a genocide. Oh, From Euronews, Hungary backs down from veto threat and allows renewal of the European Union sanctions on Russia. Hungary backed down from its veto threat and on Monday allowed the renewal of EU sanctions against Russia for an additional 6 months, bringing to a close the short-lived political saga that had put Brussels on edge. The breakthrough was achieved during a meeting of foreign affairs ministers where a statement about the integrity of the energy infrastructure was put forward to placate Budapest's concerns. Several diplomats told Euronews. I was calling them Democrats. Diplomats. From Reuters, Russia faces school textbook saying it was forced to march in Ukraine. So, yeah, now essentially lying about how history actually went. The new school textbooks, Military History of Russia, are displayed during presentation in Moscow, Russia. Here's what they look like. Picture of them. Yeah. So they're already trying to brainwash the next generation, say, no, we were forced to march. No, you weren't. You invaded. You invaded because you wanted them as part of Russia once more. It wasn't, oh, we were forced to march in. No, it was an aggressive invasion. From Bloomberg, AI-fueled stock rally dealt $1 trillion blow by Chinese upstart. The Nasdaq 100 drops 3% for worst day in 6 weeks, and the Dow climbs. AI dominance cannot be taken for granted. Saxo's Chanana. I'm assuming that's somebody dealing with AI or tech stuff. Yeah. Anyway. From the Telegraph. Trapped miners resort to cannibalism after police block their food and water. Survivors tell how colleagues broke the ultimate taboo to avoid dying of hunger. The two survivors speak quietly as they recount how emaciated miners broke the ultimate taboo to avoid dying of hunger. Trapped nearly a mile beneath the earth after police blocked their food and water, one recalled how some of his colleagues resorted to cannibalism. They cut parts of legs, arms, and ribs for sustenance. They decided it was their only remaining option for survival. The man, who declined to be named, told the Telegraph. His claims echo similar accounts slowly emerging from a mining disaster which has shocked but also divided South Africa. Okay, so that's where this happened, where this was taking place. Illegal miners. Okay. From mining.com. Winsome Resources began permitting for Adina lithium project in Quebec. Quebec, Canada, of course, I'm assuming. Winsome Resources has submitted the preliminary information statement for its Adina lithium project with regulatory authorities overseeing mining projects in self-governing indigenous communities of northern Quebec that are signatories to the James Bay and Northern Quebec Agreement. Okay, so they're wanting to access to the lithium, which lithium is becoming more and more valuable because it's being used in more and more things, so I can see it. And finally, the last story from the Middle East Eye. Scenes of Israeli captives release met with indignation in Israel. An Israeli journalist called for the return to Gaza an Israeli journalist called for a return to Gaza to put an end to these crazy beasts. So, yeah. Journalists in Israel calling for more genocide. Again, I've got no problem with normal people, with regular Jewish people. But Israel, the government, the IDF, and a good portion of the population are insane. They just are. They won't genocide. They won't ethnic cleansing. They're monsters. They really are. But of course, people who are paid by AIPAC, people who are defended by, what is it, the ADF, or ADL, Anti-Defamation League. Yeah, ADL. I was trying to remember the acronym. People backed or supported by those groups in the U.S., when it comes to our politicians, bend the knee to Israel. And it's like, yes, go kill lots of people. Go kill them. And it's like, really? Really? History will remember this, just as it remembers the Nazi Holocaust. It'll remember the fact that you supported the right of Israel to commit a genocide. You allowed it. You may get your money, but history will remember, and it will not treat you kindly. You will not be seen as some great politician. You will be seen as a sellout and a genocide permitter. That's just how it is. Get over thinking you're some great something. No. Now, let's look at some videos here. This one, chilling point of view footage shows Israeli forces firing on a Lebanese family inspecting their home. Sons worriedly calling for their dad as he is killed in front of their eyes. The two brothers were soon after kidnapped by the terrorist IDF. So yeah, let's go ahead and watch this here.
وقف بابا انتبه انتبه بابا 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 وطي بابا وطي لا بابا 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 بابا
Jesus. Like I said, everyone who permits this is a war criminal. Just how it is. well, let's say agrees with it, is a war criminal. That's just how it is. There's no excuses for the behavior we have seen by Israelis, by certain American politicians. They're war criminals. War criminals. There's nothing else you can call them. This is Selena Gomez shares new Instagram story crying amid the deportation of Mexicans.
I just want to say that I'm so sorry. So many people are getting attacked. The children. They don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything
Yeah. Because Trump, Republicans, and the Trumpists are demons. They're monsters. They don't care about treating human people as human. They care about treating them as if they're cattle to drive off their land. No, this kind of stuff should never happen. Number one, I blame the Republicans for doing it. Number two, I blame the Democrats for being so stupid and letting it happen. They're both at fault. Quit being so pathetic. Show you have a spine and stand up to them. This is U.S. made weapons remnants found in Rafah after Israel's withdrawal. I don't want to have them try to ding me for, oh, it's a music that's copyrighted. No, I'm just trying to show the stupid video. Anyway, this one, ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, continues to snatch people off the streets without provocation and claim he has a warrant and refuses to disclose it. Surprise, surprise. The pigs act even more piggish.
You got the wrong person.
Hey, can you back up a little? You can record, but you need to back up. Can you back?
You got the wrong person.
Ma'am?
You got the wrong person. You got the wrong person. You were here for attorneys.
Sue the absolute hell out of them. Every penny you can rake from their pathetic hands.
Ma'am, you need to step back. You need to step back.
Why? Because you're a pig. Oink, oink, bitches.
So, we're going to take him to the office. You got it? You got a car? We're going to take him to the office in downtown. All right? You can call that number and we'll give you more information once we get there, okay? I have it in the phone. Hold on.
This is, again, more evidence of why I have such a distrust of cops. They're such pieces of garbage.
So in about an hour, you can give him a phone call, and then he should be able to talk to you, okay? Do you have any questions for me?
Why are you talking to him? He don't have a record.
So we do have a warrant for arrest for him.
Well, let's see it.
When? Can I see the paperwork?
When we get to the office,
Can I see the paperwork?
No, I wish to see it now. You say you have a warrant. Let's see it. Come on, little bitch.
It's illegal.
No, let's see the warrant. No, 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 no. This is not legal, and people like him should be removed from any position of law enforcement. Period. Next video we want to look at. Mexico's president is doing a road trip visiting the most impoverished rural and indigenous communities. Meanwhile, our president is showing he's a monster of hate, of evil, of demonic behavior. Yeah, America's screwed because we got dumb moron and the dumb party in power. I'm doing my best not to go off on a spree of vulgarities and profanities, and it's taken a lot not to.
Esta es la Mixteca oaxaqueña. Ahí estuvo, como en toda la Mixteca, el general Lázaro Cárdenas, pero ahí justamente pasó una parte de sus últimos días, vinculado con el pueblo de Oaxaca, el pueblo mixteco. Ahí vamos nosotros.
Son mexicanos
Gracias.
maravillosos, que los queremos, los
Gracias, mi
amamos.
presidente, que linda y hermosa es usted.
¡Una porra, una porra! ¡A la vez! ¡A la vez!
Yeah, just they have a leader that actually cares. Our leader is a crap pile. How people can't see this? I know it's because of lying propaganda like Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, Right Side Broadcasting Network, and all the little internet BS groups like Daily Wire, Breitbart, The Blaze, Tim Pool, Ben Shapiro, all these right-wing morons, right-wing jackasses. And people believe it. And it's like, no, they're full of bull. They're full of lies, and you're sitting there just eating it. Eating it up.
فلسطينية وبفتخر، أنا فلسطينية وبفتخر، افتخرت لأن البنت القوية الجدعة بنت الأبطال بنت غزة بلد الأحرار اللي عندهم الموت ولا العار.
Death over disgrace.
الخضار بعد ما صهيوني الغدار.
Proud to be a Palestinian because I'm a brave girl. Yeah.
واليوم عنا الانتصار، واليوم راح نرجع عالدار، حنرجع غزة نعمر البيوت وراح نفك القيود، فلسطينية وبفتخر.
Yeah, girl who has a poem she wrote called I Am Palestinian and Proud. She's from Gaza and delivers that poem she wrote herself after returning to the devastated area that was her home in North Gaza. Next video, we're going to look at the destruction caused by Israel's genocidal campaign in North Gaza. It's just all out shameful. And yet, Israelis are celebrating it like it's some big, great thing. It's disgusting. Israeli troops kill more than 20 in Lebanon and 1 in Gaza as residents try to return. You know, you're trying to go back to your home, and Israel, of course, is the demon that's keeping everybody away from their home. According to Lebanon's Ministry of Health, Israeli forces have killed 22 as people were shot in attempting to get back to their homes. Those killed include 6 women and 1 Lebanese soldier. More than 124 people were also reported to be injured. Israel said its military presence would be extended beyond the 60 days initially agreed upon, and its reason is that the Lebanese state has not yet fully enforced a deal with Hezbollah. People could be seen going through barbed wire in an attempt to return to their homes. You know, these are regular people. They're trying to live their lives. They're trying to return to their homes. And of course, Israel, being the evil monster it is just killing regular civilians, regular people. How can anybody think this is a good thing unless you are a complete and utter demon? Yeah, this is one I had yesterday, and of course where yesterday's video kind of gave me issues, I figured I'd show it again. IDF is raiding homes in Bethlehem and filming themselves in women's lingerie they find there as well. So, you know, making fun of the fact that they're destroying houses and homes of regular Palestinian peoples. Don't need no fucking music. See, they think this is funny. This video, Colombia denied 80 illegal Colombian migrants return to their country and put tariffs on the U.S.
Colombia denied 80 migrants from returning to their country and put tariffs on the U.S.
What happened?
80 Colombian illegal migrants were being returned to their country, and the flights were initially cleared for landing. But when they grounded, Colombian President Petro suddenly revoked all clearances.
Why?
The president said he wanted dignified conditions for the migrants and that he's going to retrieve them himself in a presidential airplane. He said he doesn't want them treated as criminals.
What did Trump say?
Trump said they are illegal criminals and that Colombia has jeopardized the national security and public safety of America. He then put a 25% tariff on Colombia that will increase to 50% after a week. Then he instated a travel ban and a visa ban on government officials of Colombia, any allies, supporters, or family members.
Headed into World War III.
Hold on, I'm not done! He then placed enhanced customs and border protections against all Colombian nationals. Then he placed visa and financial sanctions and said this is just the beginning.
The beginning of what? A dictatorship in a World War III?
What makes you say that? This is Colombia's fault! Trump said Colombia has a legal obligation to accept their criminals. In return, Colombia has put a 50% tariff against the United States.
I don't think any other country has respect for Donald Trump, and that's why this is happening.
Mexico, Canada, and Colombia are now against the United States. The Colombian president has put out a recent statement. Trump, I really don't like traveling to the U.S. It's a bit boring. However, there are some admirable things. I like going to black neighborhoods in Washington. When I went there, I saw a struggle between black people and Latinos with barricades in the U.S. Capitol. Why do you divide everybody? They should unite. I don't like your oil, Trump. It will destroy the human species. Perhaps one day over a glass of whiskey we can sit down and talk. But I find that difficult because you consider me an inferior race. I have gastritis, but I'll still drink. I am not inferior, nor is any other Colombian.
That was powerful, man.
No, it wasn't until then! World War III 2025! America sitting in North Korea! How is that a good thing? No, everything will be made in America! Don't talk about trouble, you're gonna firing squad and three!
Yeah, but it is pretty typical of Trump sycophants. They'll sit there and cry and whine and do everything to protect dear leader. It's a pretty good example of how they are. They are some of the whiniest, some of the loathsome pieces of garbage. And they'll sit there and they'll whine and cry and moan. Don't treat Trump bad! He's my baby dad, or so, he's my leader! He's my God! Yeah. That's literally how they treat them. Finally, I had this one yesterday, but I figured I'd play it again since the issues with yesterday's video. Trump again floats the idea of staying in power indefinitely.
It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times.
He said something similar during the campaign. It's clear he does not care about the Constitution, but as we just discussed, his sycophants and loyalists are ready to lick his asshole for anything. Can I lick your asshole, sir? That's literally who they are. I'm surprised most of them don't have orange mouths. Well, he don't paint his face orange, so maybe they'd be brown. But anyway, I mean, who thought he would be good? You could see. It was clear. All you had to do was examine the facts. All you had to do was go back and look at everything he's done. But no, stupid is as stupid does. But yeah, this has been a long-ass video. If you've watched to the end of this, thank you so much. I know it's been insanely long. But this has been the news and politics for January the 27th, Monday. As always, educate thyself, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources, and I'll be putting these links in the description box below the video. As much as I can, because I know there's a lot of leaks. Links, not leaks. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.